Battle broken, now we rise. Flag in my hand starts burning the skies. Truth ain't dead, though the liars try. They scream loud, but the words all die. Guys watching hands, praise to the throne. Freedom ain't free. Blood built this home. Continue freedom, keep it alive. Red, white, blue, we bleed to survive. Who fight and strive. Continue freedom, keep it alive. Land of the free, ain't bending the knee. Truth in my veins, it's all I see. Patriots roar, no fear in the fight. Continue freedom, stand in the light.
And we are live once again after nearly 2 weeks of not doing a live stream. My goodness gracious, traveling around the world, out of the country, doing work, all that stuff. Got to pay those bills. So I'm good. It's so happy to be back. Takeaway. Welcome back. Good to see you down in the chat. As you guys come on board, feel free to hit the chat. If you're watching this after the fact, get into that comment section. How about we start with something funny before we get into the serious stuff, because it's always, you gotta laugh to keep from crying sometimes. I had to change the music. Admittedly, I had to change the music in this video. It was copyrighted. It was that Spin Me Right Round song that they were playing in the background. So just imagine that's playing, but AI is getting ridiculous. I won't play the whole thing. Oh, and the post, by the way, was what would happen if Trump threw like a rager at the White House. This is what would happen. I love AI. Harry Sisson. Krasensteins. I recommend you guys go to, it's Star Spangled MAGA is the account. I'd never heard of it before. This video had millions upon millions of views, but it was over on X. Highly recommend you guys go and check it out. Oh my goodness, I wasn't going to play the whole thing. It's like 3 minutes long, but it was good. AI is changing everything, I swear. Even in my world, of the photo video world, my goodness, things are changing. Times are changing. So one other funny thing that I want to play before we get into the meat and potatoes of it. One funny thing is, of course, today they've, for the past few days, I guess, they've been talking about the SAVE Act. They've been talking about, Pam Bondi. She's been in front of Congress and all of this. This was Jerry Nadler, and the music was fantastic. I'm going to put this one up. You can tell how serious the Democrats take this, right? Democrats are the geriatric home that has become the House and the Senate is mind-numbing. Jerry Nadler, I think he's known for falling asleep. Sleeping on the job. We'd get fired for that. They just vote for pay raises. My goodness. Okay, let's get into the meat and potatoes for tonight. All right, so a couple of things. I want to hit this with, right up front, that the distractions, we talk about it on this channel. We talk about the Candace Owens distractions and the Tucker Carlson distractions and the Nick Fuentes distractions and Thomas Massey and just Democrats in general. We've got all these distractions, all these shiny objects that are hung out in front of us. And they are whether knowingly or unknowingly, people like Candace Owens and Tucker Carlson, they are intentionally distracting us, or unintentionally, I don't know which, but they are serving the purposes, very effectively serving the purposes of the Democrat Party. And that's to keep us looking away from the important things that are going on in this country. And by important, I mean things like our redistricting that's going to remove Republican representation from states across this country. States like Virginia, states like Maryland. They are giving us these false narratives similar to those people. They give us false narratives to reshape how we see the world in a way that benefits them, in a way that divides MAGA, in a way that divides what was once a successful movement that Donald Trump started. All of these things are distractions. And what I will start off tonight by saying is, you guys are better than that, but we are going to encounter a lot of people who are not. A lot of people buy into this nonsense. So while they're saying, Israel first, or they're saying it's, Sharia law is not that bad, or they're saying, whatever, you pick their little pithy thing that they're distracting us with. States are falling, redistricting is happening. Democrats are fighting voter laws to secure our elections. And the things that drive them, I'll start with this one. This was a Nathan Livingstone from Milk Bar TV. He posted this one. This is specifically around the Israel first thing. This is not uncommon. He went hard in the paint
Jewish supremacists
against Candace in this video. You guys probably saw this.
Excel at creating the false dialectic, the North versus the South, the left versus the right. You got to wake up, especially if you're in America, okay? And they come over to America, and kind of the story that we're told is, oh, everyone just came with the clothes in their back and made it big in Hollywood or made it big in modern psychology. And I'm like, no, America was a young country. We were very susceptible to all of these things. Jewish people were the ones that were trading us. Jewish people were in control of the slave trade. They've buried a lot of it, control the media. They just do, okay? One way or the other, Zionists control the empire medias. And it's only through
And these sorts of things, the tropes, the stereotypes in the old, you could watch it in old cartoons and all this. This stuff hasn't changed. And it's interesting that, 80, 90 years later, we're hearing the same thing from big time commentators with massive followings. They're repeating the same nonsense, the same hateful trash. And it's to distract us, to break us apart for the benefit of whatever politics they're trying to push. And they lie to us. The Democrats do it. The Candace Owenses of the world do it. This is one posted by Gary from Paramount Tactical, and he did a good laydown. I like it when he does these, when people do these lists of Candace, because it's hard to keep track of it. And Gary and I know Jay Witt, just to name a couple, have been very, very involved in keeping track of all this. But the French killed Charlie, no evidence. Israel killed Charlie, no evidence. The U.S. military did, no evidence. Tunnels around under Charlie, retarded. Egyptian plane tracking TPUSA, no evidence. Security killed Charlie, no evidence. It's just one thing right after the other. No evidence, no evidence, no evidence. But what does it effectively do? It distracts us. It distracts us. And we've got it on our side. So there are people on our side who also suffer from Trump derangement syndrome. And I'm going to get back to the SAVE Act piece in a minute. Just bear with me on this one. But we have people that purport to be on our side, people like Thomas Massie. And look, I like Thomas Massie in a lot of ways. He's a pretty, I've been on board with him quite a bit over the years. But Donald Trump started going after him because Donald Trump or Thomas Massie was voting against. Hey, welcome, Natalie from Arizona. Donald Trump went after him because Thomas Massie it was kind of as though he was voting in the negative just to vote in the negative, not, under what principled position, i.e. voting to ban revenge pornography, banning the deep fake AI pornography that could have been created. He was voting against regulation against that. This is it's a huge threat. AI is. This is one this is one of his encounters that he had today with Pam Bondi that I think is worth listening to. Let's listen to this real quick. I'm not going to play the whole thing.
Sent by lawyers to the DOJ. It was a list of names not to redact. A list of names not to release. What did the DOJ do with this email? They released this email. in the document production. Literally the worst thing you could do to the survivors, you did. And they're getting phone calls. A lot of these people didn't want to be known. And we know you touched the document because you redacted one name and you redacted the lawyer's name, but you left the survivor's name there. The next document I want to show you, that was in the title, the victims' survivors' names, all right? The title of this one is Child Sex Trafficking, Co-Conspirators, fully redacted. And by the way, we're going to unredact them here. Les Wexner is in this.
Uh-oh.
Now, your assistant,
Jewish guy.
your deputy attorney general said, oh, well, he appears hundreds of times in the files, but he doesn't appear in this file until I forced you to release it, where he's listed as a co-conspirator, not to tax evasion, but to child sex trafficking, not to prostitution, not to money laundering, child sex trafficking. And then finally, what we have here is these
And skipping forward, let's keep going because I don't want to sit and hang on this
so
one.
we can't even see them. And then there's some of these files you've pulled down from the website that we will never see because we can't search the redacted, this massive failure, and release the victims' names. Are you able to track who it was that obscured Les Wexner's name as a co-conspirator in an FBI document?
By the way, this is all valid. This is all valid criticism of Pam Bondi. I'm no fan of Pam Bondi. Let's just get that clear right from the start. I have not been a fan of Pam Bondi, the way that she's handled a lot of things. She's done some things well, but, particularly around the Epstein stuff, I'm not a fan. But in this case, let me just frame this, and I'm going to get to the SAVE Act here in a minute, but I have to frame this, that in this instance, Lex Wexner was, he was one of the people that was redacted. However, she goes on to explain that he appeared over 4,000 times in all the other documents. So Thomas Massie has the issue that in one instance he was redacted, but he was in the Epstein files. And this is, again, you're talking about 3 million pages of documents. Is it feasible that there were mistakes made? Yeah. We're going to talk here in a little while about the government mistakes that cost us billions of dollars a year. Yeah, there's probably mistakes. But he found one guy who was a Jewish guy and that he was redacted, even though he appeared 4,600 times in the rest of the documents on this one page. Thomas Massie said, well, this is my opportunity, and he jumps in. And I've got an issue with that.
Accountability?
I believe Wexner's name was listed more than 4,000 times.
Yeah, I already told you that. This is where he's listed as a co-conspirator.
Can I finish my answer? Come on, let me finish my answer. We corrected that within 40 minutes. He was already, you're acting like everybody's trying to cover up Wexner's name.
Reclaiming my time.
I'm going to answer this question.
Reclaiming my time.
Mr. Chairman, how this works.
Can I have my time? Mr. Chairman.
The gentlelady can give her answer. The time belongs to the gentleman from.
All right, I'm reclaiming my
Can I
time.
give my answer?
So I'm going to put the language of the bill up on the screen.
Look, and again, it goes back and forth, and she reiterates. The guy was named thousands of times, but because people like Thomas Massie have IDS and TDS, it prevents them from doing what here could have been a good thing. Highlight where they did something wrong, but pick something else other than this is, again, one instance out of 4,600 other mentions, and it makes Thomas Massie look like he's just trying to push his point, similar to the Democrats. So I bring all that together to say that there are people who, even on our side, are being disruptors for disruptors' sake, and we have to be. He is. He's supposed to be a Republican, and there's a lot of people that call themselves that, but they vote in some instances lockstep with Democrats. So, and by the way, thanks. The real Kukachoo. Okay, I was like, how do you say that? God bless you, brother. Thank you for what you do. I appreciate that. I'm going to bring up some of these comments here. I usually, if you're new here, I do get to the comments generally towards the end. So I will get to everybody's comments, and I will try to reference back to what we were talking about at the time. So why bring all this up? I just say that it's people being disruptors of a successful movement, and we had certain things that we wanted. When we voted for Donald Trump, we said, what do we want? We want a secure border. We want secure elections, because now we're seeing more and more information that has come out of Georgia, that's come out of Michigan, that's come out of states across the country where voter fraud was pushed aside as if we were conspiracy theorists for saying that it even existed. And now we're finding hundreds of thousands of votes. I saw it just today in another, I forget which state it was, that they had a guy was testifying, talking about immediately after the certification of the election, they had hundreds of thousands of ballots that were destroyed. And it's supposed to be there for 22 days after the election. They were destroying them immediately after. And this is why one of the big things we wanted, voter integrity. And interestingly enough, the Democrats are fighting this, and this is where we get into the meat and potatoes of tonight. They are still fighting this, even though these are the numbers for the American people who want secure elections. Check this out.
The racial breakdown?
Okay, what's the racial breakdown on this, right? Because I think a lot of people make the argument that people of color, non-white Americans, have a harder time procuring a photo ID to vote. But even here...
By the way, favor photo ID to vote. Democrats, 71%. 95% of Republicans. It's around 80% in the entire country.
Take a look here. Favor photo ID to vote. 85% of white people favor it. 82% of Latino. 76% of black Americans favor it. So the bottom line is this. Voter ID is not controversial in this country. A photo ID to vote is not controversial in this country. It is not controversial by party, and it is not controversial by race. The vast majority of Americans agree with Nicki Minaj that, in fact, you should have a photo ID to be able to vote.
Hey, CNN, forced to make a concession. Everybody wants voter ID. Everybody, except for the people in power, except for the Democrats. And when they write it up, it's very interesting. This is how this was written. This was from CNBC, more left-wing drivel. These are the points that they make. And again, we are a headline culture. So when you look at it, look at the key points up front. They're like, here's the takeaways. The SAVE Act, it's supported by Donald Trump. So if you're one of the left-wing people that comes to CNBC, which is probably the bulk of the people dropping in on their website, it's supported by Trump. So they're going to lose some people there. And then they say the legislation would make it harder to vote. Democrats and voting rights groups warn, and has been the subject of a pressure campaign from the White House, congressional GOP hardliners, and right-wing influencers. All the buzzwords that say this is bad, this is evil, even though 85% of the country wants it. People go to publications like this. When you Google search it, and I probably should have grabbed a screenshot of that one, but when you Google search it, this is what it's everything. Straight to the front. This is backed by Trump and hard-wing right-wingers. Never mind that black people, Latino, white, doesn't matter. Doesn't matter the demographic. Everybody says, this is America, and we want safe and secure elections. We want the people's voices to be heard. Now, the left is also going to say that, again, here's an argument that was made today. Let's just play this one. This is valid to help make my point. They go straight for, here we go, let's play this clip.
Look, as I hear my colleagues on the other side of the aisle, what I hear is the same racist, misogynistic trash, different decade. Republicans are invoking historical policies intended, let's be clear, to disenfranchise Americans, especially working people, women, students, indigenous people, and anyone who can't afford the burdens of a new bill. The Save America Act is yet another Republican attempt to intimidate and suppress the votes of anyone who threatens their extremist white supremacist agenda.
Interesting, though, this is, if you guys have watched The Man on the Street, I'm sure you've seen The Man on the Street interviews where they'll go around and ask people, they were asking white liberals in some city, and they said, what do you think about voter ID? Do you think it's racist? Oh, yeah, definitely. I think it's racist because black people don't have access to IDs and people of color don't have access to IDs and da-da-da-da-da, you know. And then the guy, I think it was Ami Horowitz that did it. He went into Harlem and said, so I was interviewing some of these white liberals and they said that you all don't have IDs. And they were like, what? Of course we've got ID. We've got houses. We've got rent. You know, you can't do anything in this country without a photo ID. Of course we've got an ID. Well, that's kind of insulting. Yeah, because they played to a lot of the white liberals who think that. They think so little of, you know, whether it's black people or Latino people, you pick your demographic that isn't a white person, a person of color, and they think they're stupid. They think that they're incapable of supporting themselves. They're incapable of getting ID, that they're just these downtrodden little people who can't do anything for themselves. They're completely helpless. And they play to the hearts of, angry white liberals and men and women. But the men, they're the ones, these beta males hanging out with women who hate them. And they buy into it too. In order to get the approval of the liberal women who hate them, they say, "Yeah, I believe this. This is probably right," and they'll go right along with it. In fact, there was let's see, this was where was this one? So it was Democrat whip Catherine Clark on married women. This was one of the arguments they were actually trying to make. that married women, you know, I'm sure I get quite a few of them that watch me. You know, I'm sure I have a pretty good demographic or a pretty good collection of women that watch this show. This is what they say about married women. You're too stupid and lazy to get your own ID. Hear it straight from the Democrats. Don't listen to me. Hear it straight from the Democrats.
They're trying to say this is a voter ID bill. That's not what's happening here. Let's just look at a typical mom. You guys must know some working mothers. The ones that I hear from across my district and across this country, they are struggling to put food on the table for their kids, working 2 jobs to try and make ends meet, trying to juggle getting their kids to school, maybe catching an occasional game, fearing they're never going to be able to find childcare they can afford, and praying nobody in the family gets sick because they can't afford a doctor either. And now you're going to say to those women, because they got married and changed their names, they have to go down to a clerk and prove they're citizens, sign affidavits, do this in person? This is a minefield of red tape that you have put in front of women and American citizens.
Ladies that watch this, you are not lazy. You are not incompetent, despite the fact that the Democrats want you to believe that. They want you to believe that about yourself. I don't believe you are. Republicans don't believe you are. Republican women are not lazy and incompetent. Let's just go ahead and say that. Conservative women, I don't want to say Republican. Conservative women are not that. But they play to the lowest common denominator. In fact, I'm going to go out of order here, and I'm going to play a separate clip. She was talking about how they're just trying to get to the, you know, these women are just trying to get to the next paycheck and to the next thing. And this is true. There's people that are struggling in this country. And they will say that the women riddled with poverty are the actual problem. I'm going to play a clip from Senator Kennedy. This was actually today as well. And Senator Kennedy was talking about the Census Bureau, discussing poverty levels, and this is how they measure poverty levels in the U.S. Listen to the benefits that are accessible to the American people.
Bureau says it's 11% who live at or below the poverty level. That's a lie. It's 1%. If you count as any person with a brain above a single-cell organism would, cash and non-cash payments, they're above the poverty level. And we ought to be honest with the American people and thank them for getting the poverty level down to 1% instead of giving them a curb stomping and calling them selfish. Let me give you a real-life example here. Let's suppose you've got a mom and 2 kids. According to your Census Bureau, the poverty level for her is $27,000. She makes $11,000 a year, let's say. So she's below the poverty level. But she also qualifies for $3,400 in refundable tax credits based on her $11,000 salary, $9,200 in food stamps, that's for her and her 2 children, $9,500 in housing subsidies, $900 in utility bill subsidies, $16,000 in Medicaid, $3,100 a year in free school lunches, and $6,600 a year in TANF. That's $64,100 a year, tax-free. Is she living in poverty?
Doesn't sound like it.
No, but your Census Bureau counts her as being poor.
And so there you go. No, she is not living in poverty. But why do we want a voting act that protects our elections? Because American citizens that pay their taxes, that are downtrodden or that are just having a run of bad luck, they're the ones who should have access to that, not illegal immigrants, not people who have never paid into this system, who do not pay into this system, people who don't pay taxes, who are just leeching off of the American taxpayers. That is theft. And that's one of the things that we want to prevent. The Democrats, they don't want that because that buys them votes. It buys them votes. It buys them influence. And there, Senator Kennedy says somebody making $11,000 a year can get up to $65,000 in benefits from we the people. But if you listen to a Democrat, you know, that mom who's able to get that level of assistance, well, she can't even get an ID. Needless to say that she needs an ID to get access to any of that anyway. But she's too lazy and she's too stupid to get access to an ID. And I saw it down in the comments. Natalie, I think you made the comment, and I popped it up really quick. But now they've changed to married women can't get their name changed to match. Yes, because you're just not smart enough, Natalie. That's what they would have you believe. You're just not smart enough. There's too many obstacles in your way to get an ID. Why do people buy into this stuff, this nonsense? I do not get it. I do not get it. I've listened to folks in the past, I say in the past, in the recent past, who they're well-to-do people, and when they talk about it, they buy into it because they think they live well. Everybody else must be just living in utter squalor, and that's not the case in America. To starve in America is such a rarity. Like my small town, I'll give it as an example. We're like, I think between our town, I think it's like 25, 30,000 people, small place. We have got so many soup kitchens and shelters and places for people to live. We are the most generous country in the world. We are a very generous city, just our little city. And it causes us multiple problems. People ship their homeless people to us, but they're not starving. Nobody starves in this country. Nobody is that bad off. If you're in this country, you're automatically in the top 10% of the world, at least. And, this is the voter ID in other places. They fight it. Tim Walz, this is an example. So this was Tim Walz. And he signed, if you guys remember, he signed an executive bill that, well, here, let me play this real quick because I think this has some commentary along with it. Let me pull it up here. There we go. And let's play.
It's done.
A packed room at the St. Paul Armory erupted after the governor's signature made driver's license for all the law of the land.
So we give driver's licenses to anyone here. You don't have to be a citizen. You don't have to, which is a photo ID. So if someone comes in, they register, they have the driver's license, but they have an incorrect social or no social or whatever. So then they become incomplete. But if they walk in to vote with their driver's license, does that make them all of a sudden now okay?
Mr. Linnell.
Madam Chair, so the designation on the roster for someone whose registration had been incomplete, if they present the election judge with that acceptable identification document, that would clear the challenge from the roster and they would be permitted to cast a ballot.
Anderson.
Well, okay, there's your problem potentially. So thank you.
So they issue IDs to everybody. Everybody gets a driver's license. Here you go, guys. Hand out those driver's licenses. Hop on the road. Here, we'll give you a CDL like they were doing in California, which I shouldn't chuckle about because that ended a lot of lives. And then we turn around and say, yeah, you know what? We're just by law, if you've got that driver's license in Minnesota, you're good to go. Vote. Come on in. Hop on in. Just remember to vote Democrat. And I was reading about Tammany Hall. You guys probably know this historically. Tammany Hall lasted for, I believe it was, I think it was started in the late 1800s and started falling apart in, I believe, the 1930s is when but it was this massive Democrat machine that was doing exactly what they are doing today, which is bringing in people that are not citizens and leveraging their political power to get them the access to vote so long as they voted for their party. They've been leveraging, first off, they've been leveraging race for the entirety of the Democrat Party. They have been using their political machine to wield non-citizen votes for the history of their party. This is what they do. And we act shocked. A lot of Americans act shocked when they realize it. Like, oh, are you kidding me? Well, they were doing this in the 1800s. They were doing this in the early 1900s. They say this is Jim Crow South laws. Well, lest we not forget who the ones were who put those laws into place. It was you guys. You guys have been dividing this country along racial lines and immutable characteristics forever. It's really wild. And they're doing it, again, this is political power. So I mentioned earlier that it's happening in Virginia. This is something that it did not pass. So when Spanberger came in as the governor of Virginia, she started just whipping the pen. She was going crazy with executive orders. And she was basically undoing everything. This is exactly what's going to happen when a Democrat replaces Donald Trump. They're going to come in, they're going to start pistol whipping everything, which is why I don't, or pencil whipping everything, which is why I don't like our overuse of executive orders. But it's the fight that they put us in. It's a battle of the pen now from the executive branch, as opposed to the slow and arduous process that keeps us from passing a massive number of laws that affect the average American citizen on a regular basis. And in Virginia, this is what they tried to do. It got blocked, but here you go. This was their effort.
Democrats moving forward with a plan to redraw that state's electoral map. This would give them 4 more seats the way the voting is now set up. Mike Emanuel's watching that story across the river from, well, across the Potomac in Washington, D.C. Hey, Mike, good morning.
Bill, good morning. The complaint from Virginia Republicans is new Governor Abigail Spanberger campaigned like a moderate, but is governing from the far left. Spanberger is backing a plan from Democrats to redraw the congressional map, seeking to hold 10 out of Virginia's 11 congressional seats, while the current split is 6 Democrats, 5 Republicans. Texas Senator Ted Cruz reacting on X, a brazen abuse of power and an insult to democracy. 47% of Virginia voted Trump. They will now get just 9% of the seats. 52% of Virginia voters voted Harris. Now they get 91% of the seats. By comparison, in Texas, 56% voted Trump. GOP gets 79% of the seats. The Virginia Senate Majority Leader Louise Lucas, a driving force behind this effort, fired back at Cruz, saying, quote, "You all started it, and we bleeping finished it." House Democratic Leader Hakeem Jeffries is defending his party.
What you should continue to expect is that Democrats are going to fight for a fair national congressional map. Period.
Virginia Republican Congressman Rob Whitman, whose seat is being targeted, says, quote, "This extreme proposal rigs the game before a single vote is cast, weakens trust in our elections, and tears down the reforms Virginians enacted to prevent exactly this kind of political manipulation." Back in 2019, Spanberger had a different tone. Quote, "Gerrymandering is detrimental to our democracy, and it weakens the individual voices that form our electorates. Opposing gerrymandering should be a bipartisan priority." If the Democrats' plan survives legal challenges, the next step would be having Virginians vote on the proposal on April 21st.
These people are liars. They are liars. They don't care. There is no honest, there are very few, I will say, very few honest politicians. I think the most honest of the politicians, they don't make it. But these people, the Democrats in particular, they will lie to you. Just without breaking a sweat, they will lie to you. And once they get in, they will do what Democrats do. They'll start ruling as if they are far, far left. There is no such thing as a moderate Democrat. Their base will not support it. And thankfully, we had a judge, and I say we, I don't live in Virginia anymore. I lived in Virginia for a short period of time, but a Virginia judge voided the redistricting push. So it's not happening now, but it will in the future. And there's other states this is already happening. In Maryland, they have one Republican, one for their district, and they say, you know what, we don't need this guy. Get this dude out of here. To heck with this Muldoon. How can we redistrict and get rid of the guy? It's all about concentration of power. But what we over here on our side, what frustrates me the most is, look, we got to walk and chew gum. There's a lot of things we have to focus on. Yes, we got to focus on getting more of the Epstein information. We've gotten 4 million documents that have been released. It's far more than we got under Biden. You know, go ahead and nitpick about all this, that, and the third. But that's not the only thing. And the people that are getting the most traction, people like Tucker Carlson and Candace Owens, that's all they care about. They care about Israel and they care about the Epstein files. Nothing else matters to them. Even to the point of, Tucker Carlson saying, "Oh, Sharia law is not that bad," making a case for Islam, so long as it's an irresponsible use of a microphone that has a great deal of power in politics. And look, they're free to talk about whatever they want to, but I think our time is better spent, on other. Listen to, I will say that somebody who I've really enjoyed, and I was actually on his show not too long ago, was Gary from Paramount Tactical. If you haven't seen his show, he's bringing on people. He's talking about all manner of stuff. He's bringing on some awesome guests, and he's having fascinating conversations. But he's spending his time also debunking a lot of this, and I feel his same frustration is people like Candace Owens. There's such a huge number of people listening to them that thankfully he's got the bandwidth and the ability to do it. These new channels, he's a fairly big channel. He's 280,000 subscribers, which is awesome. And he's got the bandwidth and the work ethic to focus on, yes, debunking all the Candace Owens stuff, but bringing us actual information. And that's what I'm trying to do on this channel as well. And there's a plethora of other channels out there that are trying to say, look, you guys we spend so much of our time debunking nonsense from conspiracy theorists, and don't let all of that distract you, what they are saying. That's why I try to weave it in when I talk about debunking all the silly stuff that Candace Owens is saying. I try to weave in other things that are going on in this world, and there's a lot of people trying to do it. But it's important because it has been breaking up what was once a successful movement, and we didn't even make it but a couple of months into this presidency before it started, and now we're just over a year into a 4-year presidency, and we still have an inordinate number of people, and that's all they can think about. It's all that matters is Israel and Epstein, and that's it. And we're this was interesting. Let's see. I guess I'll do this one because I've kind of hit the points here, and then I'm gonna get to some comments here in just a minute. Let me play this one. Another thing that I think this is the right clip. Well, that's kind of talking about more. This was a lawyer for some illegal immigrants who had squatted at a $2 million mansion. Right? Why do voting laws matter? Why does voter protection matter? Because those people get access to the polls. They influence national politics. They are not people who are even assimilated into this country. That's why I'm entirely for ICE, and there's so much misinformation around that. I've done shows on it before, and I could do other shows, and will do other shows. But the fraud piece of it, and I'm going to end on a good news story. But the fraud piece of this, I think, is very important. It's like when government spending benefits people. This is what the Democrats do. Republicans, I guess, have done it in the past as well. But they wield taxpayer money in order to buy votes. And they do it through policies. They say, we're going to put more money here. We're going to put more money here. We're going to do this. We're going to do that. And people say, oh, that's going to benefit me. It's taxpayer money. And then they bite off on it. But the amount of fraud we saw it from the Somalis in Minnesota. We've seen it in California. We've seen it in Washington. We've seen it in other states. There's going to be more that will be divulged. Scott Bessent has already told us that there's about $600 billion at least in fraud. Estimates are over $1 trillion, which, by the way, if you think about it this way, about $1.5 trillion is our deficit. If we eliminate $1 trillion in fraud, which we'll never get rid of all of it, but if we eliminated $1 trillion in fraud, we've almost erased the deficit of our country, which means we're not adding to the debt, or at least not as much. Like, this is not a small thing. And I'm going to play this clip, and then I'm going to talk about it, and then we'll get to a good news story, and then we'll close with comments.
It's going in Minnesota. It went overseas. It went to Somalia. It went to NGO fronts. We know where it's gone in some other states. California gave away billions of dollars to a pro-Hamas NGO. But $1 trillion nationally, where's this money going to?
I appreciate that question because most people don't ask that question. It goes to terrorism. It goes to child trafficking. It goes to drugs. It goes to terrorism. And then it's used to purchase luxury items, cars, purses, homes. That's all funded by people like me that pay taxes.
So you're telling me that the electrician who goes to work every day and clocks in and works his butt off and tries to earn just enough to be able to, make his rent, maybe have a kid or two, put food on the table, his tax money is being used to buy other people luxury items, cars, yachts, whatever else, and is going to fund terrorism and child trafficking?
Yes, sir.
$1 trillion a year on this stuff?
$115 million an hour.
$115 million an hour. How do they get in their hands on it? What are we talking about here? Trends, national organizations, criminal networks? How do they get their hands on this money?
They take advantage of antiquated government systems and processes. They go into programs that they know elected and appointed officials won't touch, and they can steal at scale. And what happened really was during the pandemic, between the PPP loans and the unemployment insurance, they learned a really valuable lesson. Government never runs out of money, and the probability of getting caught is virtually zero. I have it at 0.1%.
So come back to the recommendations that you mentioned in your opening statement. What do we need to do to put a stop to this hemorrhaging of people's hard-earned money going overseas to finance child trafficking and luxury yachts? I mean, what needs to happen here?
It's really simple. It's used every single day in the commercial sector. Front-end identity verification, you just don't get to say, I am who I say I am. Second, recertification of all the recipients. There is so much fraud right now in the benefit programs all across the country. We need to get a baseline.
And this is part of it. So the reason that ICE, which ties into the voter laws and all these things, this is sealing up the country from within, is what we're really trying to do. Donald Trump has shut the border. It's at 90. We've shut it down by 94, 95%. Border crossings are down 94, 95%, somewhere in that neighborhood. This is over 90%. So we've sealed it all from the outside. We are trying to get out the criminals. The numbers are small, even though the Democrats they whoop and holler about the number of people, and it's nowhere close to what Barack Obama was able to deport. But he's saying, let's get the criminals out, and then let's seal up our elections so that the Democrats can't use them, as they've been using since Tammany Hall, to try and win elections so that they can remove seats, they can redistrict, they can spend money, they can defraud the American taxpayers. This is their party platform. Their party platform isn't about the people this and the people that. It's a lie. It's a complete lie. It is about getting votes, securing votes for power's sake, just for the sake of power. That's all they're trying to do. And to enrich themselves. We know that both left and right are doing that. They're enriching themselves. This is why there's more millionaires per capita in D.C. than any other place in the country, because those trillions of dollars pass through that one rotten city where they have built cathedrals in their honor. And you drive through that place, it's wild. It's wild. But that's what we've done. And for our own grandeur, we're an amazing country, and I love our country. But the opulence of that place is ridiculous. And that's what they're trying to do. But on a positive note, and before I get to comments, Tom Homan, who Trump sent to up into Minneapolis, or into Minnesota rather, he got a win. And this is why I say it's not. I'm not a nihilist. There's so many nihilists out there who say, "Oh, it's just over. It's done with." No, it's not. No, it's not. This is a small victory, but it is a victory, and we have to highlight them. Listen to what Tom Homan says.
Attorney General Mayor Fry and law enforcement officials about increasing coordination in a lawful way between the county jails and ICE to avoid public safety threats being released back in the community. While we had our differences, one thing was clear. We all committed to public safety for all who live in the Twin Cities. We have made significant progress under the direction of President Trump, working with state and local officials here in Minnesota, and I expect that to increase in the coming weeks. We continue to have discussions. I'll have discussions this afternoon. We currently have an unprecedented number of counties communicating with us now and allowing ICE to take custody of illegal aliens before they hit the streets. Unprecedented cooperation. And I'll say it again. This is efficient, requires only 1 or 2 officers to assume custody of a criminal alien target rather than 8 or 10 officers going into the community and arresting that public safety threat. This frees up more officers to arrest or remove criminal aliens. More officers taking custody of criminal aliens directly from the jails means less officers on the street doing criminal operations. This is smart law enforcement, not less law enforcement.
So what he's saying is an unprecedented number of counties in Minnesota have come out and said, you know what, we're gonna let ICE arrest illegal immigrants, criminal illegal immigrants that we have in our custody. We're gonna let them detain them and deport them. This flies in the face of what Tim Walz and all of his lackeys in Minnesota have been telling us, which is the people don't want this, that this is bad, this is bad. Trump gets on the phone with the guy, they have their conversations, and next thing you know, the counties are turning around and saying, all right, fine, we'll give these people to you. Now, whether Tim Walz is on board with that, I don't know, but at least in the counties, they're saying, yep, we're okay with this. We'll give you the bad ones. We'll give you the bad guys. That's a win. That's a win. It's in a place that we thought was going to be entirely uncontrollable. Now, Minneapolis is its own entity. We've had discussions, on this channel. I've had discussions with other people about the Insurrection Act and whether that's necessary. We've seen them setting up the Chaz Chop, autonomous zones and that sort of thing. So that's to be determined. But at least Tom Homan was able to get in here and negotiate with folks and say, yep, you know what? Give us the criminals and let us get them out of here. And so I say all this to say it's a win, a small win, but they will move on. The left will move on to the next thing, whatever that next thing is. So for us, we can't take our foot off the gas on any of these things. We can't let ourselves get distracted by the Democrats or the grifters over on our side. We have to address the actual problems. And I know I sound preachy right now, and I apologize for that, but there's a lot of problems that deserve legitimate criticism from us towards Trump and his administration. And we have to make those criticisms. We have to say, this wasn't good. But to be a nihilist like Tucker, who just sits and tells you everything that's wrong with America and how America sucks, and then he goes and tells you what foreign countries are amazing and that you should, none of us can afford to buy a place in Qatar like Tucker Carlson can, but they're making a case that is entirely nihilistic. It's like, oh, our country, just look at San Francisco. America's ruined. Well, America can have a redemption story just like any other country, but we have to weed out all the people I've shown you in this show. The liars, the grifters. That's why we're better on this channel than other places. Let me get to comments. Sorry if I sounded preachy. I'm trying not to. I was listening to some people the other day, and they were talking about ICE up in Minneapolis, and I was pulling my hair out. They were basically going headline, and I thought, you people have no idea. Like, you're not even paying attention to what's going on in this world. This was a good point by Eric. Eric said that the northern half of Virginia connected to D.C. Beltway ruins everything. You are 100% right, Eric. Absolutely. Oh, and if you're new here or you're here and you haven't done it yet, please feel free to slap that subscribe button, like button, and notification bell. We got a super chat. Hey, there you go. Bear character punching the air with fist and bump. Here we go. Okay. Thanks, man. I appreciate it. Mine doesn't do I'm about to change software. I swear, Eric. I appreciate the super chat. That's awesome. Yeah, I've been saying I'm going to change it because when you put this up, it writes out what the emoji was or the emojis that you were using. It's so silly. I appreciate you, man. And this is another good point here. So, as Eric said, Northern Virginia connected to D.C. is, they destroy everything, and they do. Yeah, they're wildly left wing up there. And if you look at Virginia, I could probably pull it. I think I pulled it up on here before, but I lived in Southwest Virginia. It is red. You go all the way to the Piedmont, and it is red, and then it starts turning purple, and then you get around Virginia Beach, and then you get up into Nova, and it is just straight up blue. And Natalie makes a good point that, yeah, but Virginians voted for her. That's true. But how many of those Virginians thought she was going to be what she became? That's my beef with it. You know what I mean? So yeah, you are right. They voted for it, and I've kind of taken the stance that elections have consequences. If somebody in Virginia is going to vote for a Democrat and be dumb enough to think, they're going to be the moderate they say they're going to be, especially with their track record of just lying to their constituents. Then yeah, you kind of get what you deserve. But it can have with the redistricting and their efforts to do that, it's going to have some long-term impacts on elections, and some that might not be recoverable in certain places. And I think I popped this one up too, but we need to make sure that we vet all candidates that claim to be Republicans. 100%. 100%. They will play both sides of the game to maximize profits regardless of the outcome of the game. Oh, there you go. There you go, Megan. You're on point right there. They will play both sides. Yep. I mean, it's the, insider trading. I mean, good gracious. It is rampant up there. And you're never going to get them to vote down insider trading or put any restrictions on them for insider trading. You're never going to get them to do term limits because the regulators don't want to regulate themselves. That's why they didn't make themselves subject to Obamacare. They knew it was going to be a disaster. Everybody knew it was going to be a disaster. But they were like, I don't want it. give me my own. Let me buy my own. It'll be significantly cheaper. Okay. But really, how much money is enough? I think it's about power more than the money. There's people say that only so you get so much money and then the money doesn't matter anymore. If you got $1 billion, another million doesn't put a dent in how you feel. And so you always want more and more. And that power kind of fills that void. I think you're right about that. Power would supersede money. But when you're like these low level politicians making $170,000 a year and you got the opportunity to, invest some of your money, or, maybe you get an inheritance and you can throw it into something that's going to turn around 130, 140%. I would say that then it's the money. But once you get to those higher levels, yeah, it becomes more about the power. I think you're right. Part of the Epstein wielded his power, of how Epstein wielded his power was through his control of money, people's access to it, among other things. So his power plays, it's all about control, in my opinion. Okay, yeah. Oh, I mean, he was most definitely running a blackmail operation. Yeah. And yeah, it was about wielding, and he enriched himself. So you're right, controlling, using what resources he has to control people. Yep. The more power one gets, the more control they can wield. As their need for control, so as their need for control escalates, if the need for control escalates faster than power accumulates, that's when people get sloppy and make mistakes, and that's where they usually get caught. Okay, here we go. I like this one. The more power one gets, the more control they can wield. So as their need for control escalates, and if the need for control escalates faster than power accumulates, that's when people get sloppy and make mistakes, and that's where they usually get caught. I like that summation, Megan. That's pretty good. Let's see. There you go. They didn't get everything right. For as much as I love the founding fathers and what they did for this country, I've been going back through and basically pulling all the Old Testament and New Testament, whether it's in Deuteronomy or Leviticus or whatever, and finding in Romans and places, and finding where our founding fathers correlated our Constitution and our way of governance to the Bible, because that's ultimately what they did. And it is interesting. They did a lot of things really, really well, and they were well ahead of their time, but they didn't get everything right. That's for sure. But yeah, I wish our forefathers would have taken a lesson from Rome. Yep. Let's see. All right. I think I've come to the end of the comments. Let's see if I missed anything. The only way Dems, this is back up earlier. Yeah. Natalie said the only way Dems can win is if they cheat. You're not wrong. They, and even with the voter, if that polling is accurate, the stuff that CNN was showing, if that polling was accurate, my goodness, it's not even close. And for the left to be so disconnected from their base, because CNN's not giving you polling that is swayed towards the right. Like, by no stretch of the imagination are they going to be using conservative polling. Not that a good poll, it shouldn't matter, but yeah, that they're still running with this. They're still, it's wild. It blows my mind. And people buy into it. There's the blue no matter who folks, quite a few of them. And I get frustrated with that because, at some point you have to realize, especially Christian folks, which is, when people start saying that, yeah, I vote Democrat and I'm a staunch Christian, it's like, well, that's kind of hard because their platform is so antithetical to our worldview. I don't quite get it, but they do it anyway. They voted that now. They've always voted blue, and it's going to be blue no matter who. So I think they look at the negative rather than, or not the negative, but they look at the opponent of the Democrats rather than the policies of the Democrat Party. That's the only way I can think somebody would square it. They don't pay any attention to the transing the kids or abortion or any of the hot button issues that the left loves to talk about. They just say, I don't like Donald Trump, so I'm going to vote Democrat out of spite. And that in and of itself is problematic. So let's see. Forefathers didn't think we would stray so far. Wow, there you go. That's a valid point right there. That's it. Yep. Okay. Guys, that concludes tonight's live stream. I truly appreciate it. If you're on and you haven't done so, do me a little favor and hit that subscribe button, like button, notification bell. Share this content with your friends. If you have folks that might enjoy this show, I know I've been off for 2 weeks, and I am back now. Hopefully, for a consistent period of time. I was doing pretty good there for a while. But I appreciate you guys. Y'all are awesome. God bless you. God bless America. And I've got one more comment in here I might want to get to. Let's see. If the useful idiots on the left understood who's behind the scenes and writing the script for media, they wouldn't fall for it so easily. There you go. If the useful idiots on the left understood what was behind the scenes writing the script for the media, they wouldn't fall for it so easily. You're on point, Megan. That's good. I appreciate all the commentary down in the chat. You guys are great. You guys are great. And I will see you tomorrow night. God bless, guys. Have a great evening.